It's time for another post-game show, this time in the SEC tournament, and this time, sadly, the Tigers fall in the first round to the Arkansas Razorbacks by the score of the 76-73. We're here to break it down, talk about the action, the stats, the storylines, all that in between here on this post-game reaction show. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family. I know right now it is not the most pleasant of times to be talking about it going live, but your Tigers have fallen to the Arkansas Razorbacks by the score of 76-73. Should not be a shock in any way to anybody. And I want our Auburn family to prepare themselves right now because my prediction is as such that, a couple predictions actually, that you will be inundated with an influx of Arkansas fans that have been very quiet on the YouTube over this past season. But they'll probably come in a little bit later too as well. So hello to you Arkansas fans watching on the replay and wanting just to come in and throw a little shade. But regardless, I predicted that the winner of this SEC tournament will come from the pod of Auburn and Arkansas and Texas A&M because they all will, some version of that would have to play each other, and that I think, based on what I saw tonight, is going to hold true. Arkansas is a very talented team. Auburn's a very talented team, just can't put it all together to get everything together in one single game. And that's, yet again, the case of what happens tonight, in my opinion. So I would love to hear from you all tonight. Your thoughts, your opinions, your comments, your questions, post them right now in the chat. But hey, let's start off with this, our normal routine for this particular show. We start off by smashing the like button. Obviously, if you could do that for us, that's a huge help. If you could also check in right now, post where you're watching from, with a city, your state, international, if you're international, War Eagle, all those good things, post those right now. Good way to get the show started off, and we'll say hello to a bunch of you as we get into the show a little bit further here. I kind of already offered some opening thoughts. I'm going to give a few more. I know what our minds immediately shifts to is, does this move the team out of the NCAA tournament? No, and it does not. Now, it sure makes things scarier, doesn't it? So now Auburn has to sit Thursday, today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and this Sunday portion until the tournament games get wrapped up for the conference tournaments, and then find out where you potentially will land. So yes, it makes us a little bit worried on what could happen there, but most people's understanding, we have the resume to be there. And my biggest thing was I wanted us to show, no matter what the results of this game, that we were a competitive team, and we did that against an Arkansas. So right now, if you're an Auburn fan, you become the biggest Arkansas fans out there. You need them to make a run in this tournament to show that you nearly beat the team that won or did that well in the SEC tournament. So right now, switch your gears. It may suck, but you are now Arkansas fans, whether you like it or not, for the benefit of your team. All right, let's talk about who's here right now. We got a lot of familiar faces here hanging out with us. We got Devin, Brandy, Kevin, JS Warriors, Cool Luke, Joe, Brian. Who else is here? We got Yahari and W, Unbeaten Lake. Man, good crowd here tonight. David on Facebook, Certified Cobra, lots of good things. Kevin, yes, I agree, buddy. I think we're in the NCAA tournament, but of course, nothing is a guarantee. So there you go. Yahari says these droughts have been biting us in the behind. Thank you for censoring yourself there. But yes, droughts, definitely. One of the big issues with this team, and it is not a super consistent offensive team. And so when you give up deficits at the rate that Auburn has given up at times this year, you make it super hard on yourself to come back and get leads, because you're not a team that, yes, you can put together little streaks and runs. Most basketball teams can, and Auburn's pretty good at doing that, as you saw tonight, being down by 15, I believe, was the highest deficit at one point. So you really see that they have the capability to do that, but you make it so much harder on yourself when you're not that great of an offensive team. So yes, those droughts have really what's killed us. And then also, we're a team that has all these little pieces that need to work together and be on the same night. When they are, we can't be beaten. But when they're not, one piece is missing, maybe a little bit more than they normally are. It tends to take a little bit of backslide. Can we just commend here? I know we're going to dwell on the bad things here because it's a loss, but can we just commend KD Johnson? Can we just commend Chris Moore? A lot of Alan Flanagan, a lot of guys who stepped up tonight. Chris Moore, maybe, statistically is not up there. I haven't really looked at his stats completely yet, but in terms of effort and heart, getting himself busted up again, a round of stitches again this season for him after another injury he already had. He gave his body right there late in the game to draw an offensive foul. You really can't be upset with the effort. You really can't be upset with the energy, with the response to adversity in this game, other than just some frustrating things that we just can't get over the hump on. I find very few things to be super upset with this team over. I mean, obviously, I'm upset we lost and that we're not in the SEC tournament and how we're going to have to sweat it out a little bit on Selection Sunday. But it really could have been worse. Do you remember that Kentucky game? Jeff, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Greg, not to dismiss your question there, but we're really not worried about flipping commits right now. But I haven't read up on him, but maybe right now I'm concerned about what's going on with this team at this moment. Jeff says we got killed on the boards. We'll look over there at the stats in a little bit. For those of you that may be new to how we operate things here, we just kind of like to spend the first part obviously going off what you guys want to talk about, but some storylines, and then we'll kind of walk through some of the stats towards the end of this game. Let's see, 50-50 ball, free throw, and no energy. Henry, I'm going to vehemently disagree with you on the no energy thing, maybe at certain points, but if you're saying that as a holistic commentary, you are dead wrong, sir. 50-50 ball is where we lost. I agree with you there. Free throws, again, let me take a quick peek at it. Do I even want to? Ugh. Yeah, I agree with you there too. It seems like when Wendell struggles, we struggle, and when he succeeds, we succeed. Well, it's not a shock, right? He is the general of your team, just like the quarterback on the offensive football, the linebacker typically on the defensive football. Whatever analogy for whatever sport you want to use. Yes, I mean, obviously that happens. You just hope that you don't struggle as much as you should without him, or that you shouldn't without him, I guess is the way I should say that. Yeah, I think that doesn't shock me in the least, that as he goes, we go. Katie's best game all season. We need 3 consistent scores to make noise in the tournament. I would argue that we already have those, Yahari. We need 4 consistent scores, and we got that tonight, I believe. If I'm looking at quick look at, yeah, we got a decent amount from 4 guys tonight. Unfortunately, I think Auburn needs 5 guys to be scoring very close to double digits. And I'm not talking, 3 guys at 20 points. I'm just talking, if we get 5 guys that hit 10 points and then get a little help from the bench, somebody's going to do better than just 10 points. I guess is what I'm getting at. We're kind of missing that 5th person, that 5th scorer that you really need to have, whether they're a starter or on your bench. That's what I feel like is missing tonight. Getting his own rebound, a miss off the free throw. Which one are you talking about, Brian? Are we talking about Chris or Katie? I'm missing the context there. Nah, I think, yeah, I'm going to disagree with you there. There were plenty of people that played better than probably you're painting the picture here, but there are some others that played decent games. Alan Flanagan knocked down some pretty really clutch shots that we needed him to. I'm not saying, I think Wendell probably had a pedestrian game compared to what he normally does for us, as we've already addressed. As Wendell goes, so goes this team. So really, I mean, that's probably, if Wendell scores a few more points here, if we make some free throws here or there, we're in a different situation. Sad in Oklahoma. Devin says, rebounding, the story of the night. You know it well, Devin. You've been here long enough to know the 3 things that we focus on here: free throws, rebounding, and turnovers. I would imagine Auburn lost all 3 of those tonight, just based on I haven't even looked at the complete stats, but that's pretty evident. You were talking about Chris Moore. Yeah. Do not question Chris Moore's heart and energy or grit. He laid it out there. Just wasn't very effective points wise. David, you sound like you're throwing in the towel, man. Still got a season left. I still got some games left, or at least 1 game left, supposedly, based on the prognosticators put us in there. All right, so let me think about if there's any other storylines we haven't really covered yet from this game. We talked about Chris Moore's injury. I don't think we've spent enough time talking about KD Johnson. So I want to take a step back for a second and remind a lot of you that we're lamenting about KD Johnson. And I wish he would stop shooting so much or doing the things that he's doing. Well, I submit to you this night, without KD Johnson doing what he does, being his crazy little psycho self, his little frustrating self at times, we're not in this game. If KD Johnson doesn't do what he does tonight, with Wendell struggling a little, I don't know if I should say struggling, but not as efficient as he normally is, and some other areas not as efficient as we normally were, this could have been Kentucky all over again. This Arkansas team is very good. It's amazing that it took them this long in the season to kind of start getting this young, really hyped up, I think, freshman class overall. One of the best recruiting classes, I think, from this past cycle, going the way they could. You see how deadly they can become, which is why I felt pretty confident saying that Auburn, Arkansas, or Texas A&M, that little pod in this bracket for the SEC tournament, is going to win the whole thing. Don't sleep on Arkansas. Now, you can see they let us come back on them, so they have a few things that just kind of make them a little bit not as susceptible to being as dominant as they were last year. But regardless of that, KD Johnson, my man, Mary says, I love KD. You should love KD. It's also understandable to be frustrated by KD. He's a coach's dream and a coach's nightmare all in one. Anyone noticed that the last couple of SEC tournaments, including 2020, we would have played Texas A&M? We get the hardest games every year. Well, and see, then we don't have any excuse, right? Or we don't have to say, no one can say to Auburn, well, you had an easy path to everything. I kind of prefer it that way. Yeah, it would be nice to have Alabama's side of the bracket. That's probably going to be a cakewalk for them for the most part. But I like the challenge. I like being battle tested. And yeah, Texas A&M, the last couple of seasons, especially since Buzz Williams has been here, he seems to find himself on our side of the bracket and in our way a lot. Yeah, I addressed this a little bit earlier. I don't see any reason to panic about us not making March Madness right now, the true March Madness, NCAA men's tournament, not the NIT. If we don't, we'll make the NIT. But nobody is predicting that. I think if Auburn flops tonight, has a Kentucky-type game, then yes, you're probably talking about somebody being like, we don't want that to be in the tournament. But I hate to, I'm going to suggest that someone's going to take issue with it and ring me over the coals for it, or rake me over the coals for it. You can't tell me that there's not a certain element of what does your fan base bring to the table and who should make the tournament. There's an element of that. This thing's about making money. They know Auburn fans are going to travel. So that alone kind of gets you maybe that if there is somebody there that you literally have the exact same stats and it's you or them going into the tournament, probably go with Auburn in that category. There are other things as well. Yeah, I think Wendell, I was actually setting the live stream up. So I didn't see the exact thing that Wendell did at the end, but I think he did not have a great last sequence there overall. WT, good to see you. Thanks for here. We need length on our guards. I can't remember how what the measurables on Aiden Holloway off the top of my head, but I think he's got some coming in the two after that, the season after that we'll have some. So you'll see that. Listen, for those of you that think that length is the only thing that I shouldn't say the only thing that is the biggest factor of whether a guard can be successful, I submit to you, Jared Harper, Bryce Brown. It just really is how you kind of all mesh together and who's hot at the right time, along with things like measurables, other things, statistics. It all works together. It's not an exact science. And I don't think that's exactly what you were saying there, but maybe there's a case for that. Holloway is 6 foot 155, so that obviously doesn't get you a lot more. He's barely taller. He's not bigger than me, definitely. Not that I'm in NCAA basketball condition. Devin says that we're a lock for the tournament. I wouldn't say that we're a lock, Devin. I disagree with you. I love your optimism, and I'm on that side of the fence with you, but we are not a lock. There is the only way we were a lock is if we won this game. There's always an opportunity, but I would say we're 80% gonna. I'll you know what? I'll just come out on a limb here and say 90% gonna make the tournament, but there's a slight opportunity there for someone to say, leave them out. It depends on what happens in all of this tournament weekend, right? Things could really get thrown out. What happens if in a few of these smaller conferences, the teams that weren't supposed to win them, and they get the automatic bids, and then those other teams that were supposed to win those smaller conferences tournaments still are good enough to make the tournament? That might push Auburn further and further from consideration. Let's see. I just thought Green would have held the ball those last 10 seconds instead of driving in for a bad pass. Do I have it right that he just drove in and lost the ball? Is that how it went down? I can't remember now. I'm trying to block it out of my memory. I imagine what was happening in that sequence was we were trying to draw a foul on a shot as opposed to go for a 3 there. That's kind of what I was thinking Bruce was going to do, but I'm not Bruce. I'm not paid the big bucks to make those decisions. Yeah, LeBaron. I keep calling him LeBron. LeBaron Phylon is 6'4", but that's going to be a little while before he gets here. Devin, there are a few analysts that said we are not a lock, but I mean, I believe we're in. Like, this is not. I'm not arguing with you about us being in. I'm just saying I think a lock is a strong word that I would not be using right now. I would be using just Auburn's in, just so that there's that little room of leeway. 20 wins. It's hard to leave a team without 20 wins or with 20 wins out of the tournament. You know, bear with me just a second here. I want to look at something, and then we'll get to some stats from tonight's games to talk about. I want to look at Texas A&M last year. Some of you might beat me there and maybe on my train of thought right now. So I'm kind of typing and doing this all while we're talking here. But I want to look at what their record was last year. All right, we're at schedules. Basketball, I believe they hit 20 games last year by the skin of their teeth. So this year they're 23 wins. The reason I'm bringing them up is because they were snubbed from the tournament, and a lot of people were shocked, me included, that they did not make the tournament last year. They had 27 wins. Is this correct? Am I looking at this right? But that's probably counting their NIT run. I believe it is. So let's assume that's got all there. So they had 23 wins. So that's why I say they're not a lock. But I'm not sitting here panicking either. If you want to look at an example of a team that should be in the tournament that wasn't, and how things can go bad for you, look at Texas A&M last year. But I think we're in. So, Cheryl, good to see you. Thanks for the positivity here. Could use a lot more of that. So I appreciate that so much. Let's see here. What else comments came in here? I wonder why we struggle in the SEC tournament. We've only won in the tournament twice in the last 10 years. And do you know how much we won in the tournament before that? Less than that. So we're actually doing a lot better. If you think about it. We got to 20 regular season wins. Well, I think maybe I didn't make that clear, Devin. They got, if I'm looking at their record correct, they got to more than 20 wins in the regular season. I believe, maybe I'm not, now that I'm thinking about it. So maybe it was just a little bit less. So maybe my point's a little bit moot. The point still stands. Texas A&M should have been in the tournament last year. No question. Doesn't matter if it was in the regular season or because of the SEC tournament. They should have been in, and they weren't. So we're not a lock, but we are in, is all I'll say about it. All right, let's walk through the stats a little bit. I know they're not fun to talk about. 76-73 is your final score tonight. And we'll look at some individual stats real quick. We already mentioned that Wendell Green gets into double digits tonight. 11 points, 5 for 5 from the free throw line, 2 for 5 from the 3-point arc, 4 assists for him tonight, 3 turnovers. Not a bad stat line, but we could have used just a little bit more of that icy wing, like, just logo shots from him, just a little bit more. Another area where we really lacked, and so if you look at this as we walk through here, Jalen Williams only 6 points tonight. 1 for 6 from the field. He made all his free throws, which is what Jalen Williams does. 1 rebound, 1 assist from him. Could have used a little bit more from him tonight, but I am not going to blame that man. He is the reason we were in a lot of games this season because of his leadership and his stepping up this season. Janai Broom with 13 points, Alan Flanagan with 15, and then Katie Johnson with the monster night of 20 total points. Dylan Cardwell also gets 7, Chris Moore with 1, and everybody else 0. We really have to find a way to get somebody else on the bench other than KD, other than Dylan, to get more involved offensively. Because of nights like this where Jalen doesn't have the night that we're used to him having. Same thing with Wendell, so that it kind of makes up that deficit. That's why I say Auburn is missing that 5th scorer, not necessarily always hitting double digits, but getting close to it. If that happens tonight, we're down by 3, we probably win the game. And you can play if and this, that, all you want, but I think that's a valid point. Let me take the Texas A&M schedule off here. We don't need that anymore tonight. Just looking at Katie's stat line tonight, 20 points, 7 for 10 from the field, 1 for 2 from the 3-point arc, 5 for 6 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. So really good stat line for him overall. Does this give me his plus minus? Let me see real quick. Plus minus for those of you, season total tonight. What was this? I'm trying to find it here. I think if I'm reading this stat line correctly, it's 21 overall for the game. So that's pretty good if I remember correctly. So yes, when Katie Johnson was on the floor, we had a good chance of not only coming back, but winning the game. I'm very happy that he's the one that got the opportunity to shine tonight, because there's been a lot of all season flack on him for not doing what we got used to him doing last season. And he showed up in a big moment. We just didn't have some other areas show up where we needed it to. Russell, great point. Chris Moore deserves a gold star for the effort with a stitched up chin. That free throw rebound save from the out of bounds fired me up. There's a reason he's the energy guy. And I hate that he got injured so much this year and saw his role diminish, because I think had he stayed with the lineup the way it was set with Allen coming off the bench, Chris wasn't really, I think he got into double digits a couple times when he was starting, but he was really kind of helping cushion that starting lineup and letting Allen and Katie come off the bench together, supplying a little bit of extra scoring. I think that might have made the difference if he had been a little healthier and allowed us to utilize people differently this season. Of course, then maybe we don't get Alan Flanagan stepping up the way he did sometimes this season. So again, we can play the ifs and buts and candies and nuts and all have a Merry Christmas game. The facts stand. Auburn's out of the SEC tournament and in the NCAA tournament for now. Always going to leave that little room for doubt. Okay. We talked about some individual stats. If you guys have I guess I shouldn't have been asked. It's Katie Johnson. If you have a case for another player of the game, post it right now if you'd like to. Team stats tonight. You really got to like when Auburn's sitting at about 49%, almost 50% from the field, 31% from the 3-point arc. That's what Auburn needed to do really to be in this game, and they did that. 5 for 16 from the 3-point arc. Let's look at the big 3 stats. Free throws, 67% compared to Arkansas, 74%. That's the game right there, folks. Makes me upset. Turnovers, surprisingly to me, I thought this was much higher for Auburn. They all seem to kind of come in one big set. Only 10 turnovers for Auburn, which is about what we do. 19 for Arkansas. Arkansas literally tried to hand the ball off in this game. So had Auburn won the game, we would all be pointing to the turnover margin and saying this is where it was the difference. It almost was, but not quite. Rebounds, and this is, I think it was Devin or somebody else who pointed it out earlier, maybe several of you. Rebound differential, second chance points along with that, and opportunities, really. 37 for Arkansas, 19 rebounds for Auburn. That is a almost 20 rebound differential between the two. You will not win basketball games if that type of stat happens. The fact that Auburn almost won it with it speaks to how some other areas helped them. 3-point percentage, efficiency, shooting from the field today, staying within your normal average of turnovers, things like that. Points off of turnovers, which Auburn did get tonight. So the rebounds, that's an ugly one right there, folks. I agree, Cheryl. It wasn't horrible, but it ain't up to my standards, and that's why they lost the game. Ryan says Chris Moore is the player of the game for him for the heart and toughness, and I appreciate that. And I'm not going to fight you on that in any way, but it's the Katie Johnson show tonight. I appreciate heart and drive and energy and passion more than anyone. Katie's got that too. Chris Moore wins that gold star tonight, but I think the MVP is Katie still. But obviously, it's your award. You can hand it out to whoever you want. Just for fun, would have loved to see Leo Berman get that last 3-point attempt. And more so even for the rest of the game. They're trying to get these guys open. Here's the bad part of being Leo Berman. You've come on the scene as a really solid option at 3 points. So now people are really watching you when you come in. This isn't somebody who's just brought in some spot time to fill when we have an injury issue. This is a guy that's coming in and competing, that's coming in and being a big time contributor. So they're trying to take that away because they know what Auburn needs is better 3-point shooter, better outside shooting. And your most efficient one from the floor, you watch him when he comes on the floor, even in limited time. So I would have been nice, but just off of history alone, we've seen Wendell, Katie in more clutch, Alan Flanagan in more clutch last-second 3 situations. I would rather one of them take the shot, even with Leor's better efficiency because he's taken fewer. Just my opinion, though. But I know what you're getting at there. Other stats that we haven't hit tonight. Second chance points, 18 for Arkansas, 6 for Auburn. Bench points actually in Auburn's favor tonight. So that's really interesting. When you kind of look at it, it's really Katie Johnson that kept the bench points up high for Auburn because it was pretty well distributed on Arkansas's team. Blocks tonight even, steals in Auburn's favor. Assists pretty well shared evenly by both teams. Only one time tied tonight. 3 lead changes. Really for me, the story of tonight is Auburn letting Arkansas push themselves out too far and us having to fight back. Because as I had started the show by addressing, we had the ability, the talent, the energy, the drive, the grit, for those of you that don't think we had it, to be able to fight ourselves back into this situation. But when you know that's not your strong point, don't allow that to happen. And so that would be my biggest thing for success for Auburn going into the NCAA tournament. Assert yourself early. Let them play off their heels. No matter who it is, what seed you are, assert yourself early. Let's see here. The big problem with this year spoiled a lot of us. You don't replace those 2 stars we had last year overnight. Anyone complaining about a 21 season is spoiled. I think it's a little harsh. I think it's reasonable to be disappointed and express that disappointment. But there's, when we just kind of write the team off and start ridiculing people on social media like apparently they're doing to Wendell right now, that's ridiculous. Yeah. But again, most people that are doing that type of stuff on social media, they just want the clicks and stuff. It's all a popularity contest. And that's why they hide behind anonymous, names and stuff. No offense to those of you that have anonymous and stuff names, but most of you behave yourself here because you've learned. Behave yourself or it won't work out for you here. So that's not a knock if you choose to remain anonymous. Just that's when we see that type of stuff on social media, people going after people they don't even know. That's what's going on there. I just want the like because it makes me feel better about myself. Yeah, Walker. I think honestly, it was a hot take here. You never want to do without either, but I wonder if Walker Kessler wasn't the real key to last year. Is that a hot take? It might be. I don't think it's as hot as some people would initially react to, but Walker Kessler probably was the difference last year. And that's with Jabari Smith there, what should have been the number 1 overall pick. Just saying, man. Just saying. Auburn standards have risen under Bruce. The future is extremely bright, considering the caliber of players committed. Yeah, but so the thing you got to remember that is they're committed. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work out. You know how I am. I like to play both sides of this. Yawan and Kyle Chance haven't necessarily worked out yet. I believe they're going to. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time and patience from us as fans. Why do we have to depend on the smallest guy on the floor to win basketball games or come through for you? We have seniors and juniors on this team. We need only 4 players to return back on this team, I guess is what you were saying. Is that what you're saying at the end there? I'm not understanding. I think you're putting a little too much emphasis on the measurables of someone. Again, I submit to you, Bryce Brown. I submit to you, Jared Harper. And you could say they're anomalies in the equation, sure, but there's a lot more anomalies outside of Auburn to make it not anomalies. We depend, if you're talking about Wendell, why do we depend on the smallest guy on the floor in that situation? Because we've seen him do it time and time again, make magic happen. And the odds really are in your favor if the entire game he's not had the best night, that he's going to turn on logo win situation there at some point. I would much rather the ball at the end of the game be in the hands of Wendell, and I can throw a couple other people in there, but like we were talking about Lior. No offense to Lior, he's a crucial part of this team. Hope in the tournament we find a way to utilize him even more. But I'd much rather him have the ball, Wendell taking the ball, Wendell handle it, directing, taking the shot in that situation. And I believe they were trying to get the ball worked inside there to try to get a foul on that. Jay, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out here. We're almost done here, but appreciate you popping in over here. Thank you, Yahari. I appreciate that. I know the Walker. I feel like some people hear me say that the X factor was Walker, not Jabari, and get real offended by that. I think if you really look at some things, whoo boy. We were much better with Walker in the game than without him. What we lack is above average shooters. I don't have a lot of pushback on that. I think this year they have definitely underachieved in that area, and that is a shame. Let's see here. Yeah, go if you want to drown your sorrows tonight, go watch the Final Four run. It'll make you feel good. There's people sharing clips of that online too right now. So, and Kessler had another double-double. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Final comments, questions, topics that you want to hit at this game. Get them in right now. Do not hesitate. Post them. Comment them right now. Whether you're watching on the Twitters, well, I don't think we're on Twitter right now. Facebook, any of the places that we're broadcasting to right now. Post it right now. Would love to still hear from you with the final few minutes that we have here tonight. What we're going to do is go through what to expect next from us. Obviously, they're out of the SEC tournament, so we will not be doing any post-game reaction shows the rest of the weekend. However, you don't know what we might get into. I will be in Auburn this weekend, so we'll just see. Maybe have a few ideas to try some things. We'll see. I will be at gymnastics Friday. I will be at baseball on Saturday. That is the plan right now, but who knows what else we might get into. So stay tuned, especially you Booster Club members, for those exclusive things that I share with you guys when I'm in town in Auburn for sports weekends and things like that. But other things to keep in mind, our next scheduled live stream will be this Sunday night. the Auburn Experience podcast, the main show across everything that we do with Austin and myself. Do not miss it. Episode 27. It is already up there on YouTube. You can find it. We only broadcast it on YouTube on Sunday nights at 9 Eastern time. You can hit the like button, hit the notify me button on the page for that on YouTube, and go ahead and do that so it can kind of remind you that we're going live with that. You need to be a subscriber if you're not, to be part of that giveaway that we're getting closer to ending it very soon. So don't hesitate. Make sure you watch that video so you know how you can maximize your opportunities to win it. We can have you as a channel member. You could be a booster club member. Both of those things start at $1 a month. We appreciate you people. Yes, I said you guys, all of you who do one or the other or both. But we also appreciate you just being here, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about this particular topic in the Auburn family spectrum. Yes, I saw the news. It's not a good night for Auburn fans. SUNY's not going to compete in their last home meet, and we lose the game. Yahari, thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate that. If we can make it past the first weekend of the NCAAs, if we get in, we'll make this a great year. It's a funny how, winning, they say winning solves everything, right? So yes, people will view this year, I won't say a lot differently, but at least they'll change their tune just enough if they make a fun little run in the NCAA tournament. This team, depending on the draw that they get, depending on that, could find themselves in the situation, if they put those pieces together that we talk about, that little bit that we've been talking about all year, they put that together. They have the makings of that. I truly believe that. I've seen it in them. I saw some of that tonight. We can get a complete game from 5 or 6 of these guys all together in the same night. Nobody can beat us. I promise you that. But we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you, WTG. I don't know why I was struggling to say that one. Maybe because I'm talking too much tonight. I'll wet the whistle. First game will be the hardest, is what he's saying, and it will be harder because we have to play a better built team than the last couple NCAA tournaments we've been in. In theory. So let me submit this to you. Maybe we'll have this be our closing thoughts, obviously, because that's where our minds are shifting to. I've been of the opinion for a while, when Auburn was sitting at that 8 or 9 seed, which they may still be at, assuming they make the tournament, which I believe they will. If you think about that, yeah, the 8 and the 9 seed play each other on each side of that on whatever region you're in. Who do you have to play immediately next if it holds chalk, meaning it goes how it should? The number 1 seed in that region. Now, if we play it out, you're going to run into the 2 or the 3 seed or the 4 seed very quickly in each region too. So it's not like, oh, we avoided the big one. There are other challengers out there. I feel a little bit better with us. A lot more chaos can happen, I think, when you start at the 11 seed. If you look at a lot of these Cinderella stories too, they're somewhere in the range of like the 10, 11, sometimes 12. I feel like I can stand on pretty good ground saying that. So if Auburn finds itself in the tournament slipping down to a 10 or an 11 seed, meaning at the 10 seed, we would play the 7 seed. Then you would, if you won that, you would play the 2nd seed. We might find ourselves in a situation very, very advantageous. A lot still on the table. We will sit here with a little bit of apprehension on Selection Sunday, but you should believe, based on what many others are saying, that Auburn's in the tournament. Until they're not, you should believe that. And we will wait earnestly for that. We are going to be doing a bracket challenge this year, folks. Stay tuned for announcements on that. Some of you will be getting access to that earlier. Don't miss out on that. We have got a lot of content coming out over the next after the weekend and stuff. Next week's going to be crazy. It's March Madness weekend. Don't miss any of it. But as always, you guys are the best little family within the Auburn family. And I appreciate you so much being here during what's been a rough season for basketball. I know there's not as been much energy or drive, but I appreciate you guys choosing us, watching live especially, but those of you that come on the replay, to hang out with us and talk about what's still a fun men's basketball program at Auburn. Till we talk to you again, either before that or this Sunday at 9 o'clock, don't miss it. War Eagle.